I wanted to hate this supposed touring bike. It's cheap, it's small, compared to those Harley baggers I've gotten used to, and we all kind of forget it exists. But on a 500-mile road trip with my editors, it might have been all of our favorite. Before we get into the specs, accessories, how it'd be for commuting, long distance, and those other details, here's a first impressions clip, right after I finished riding the bike 500 miles, before I read or watched anything online. So this bike, the Suzuki Boulevard C50, is basically the big brother to my first bike, the Suzuki S40 Boulevard. And I remember sitting on this model bike my first year of riding, and I remember thinking it was so big, but now, like 8 years later, now that I've gotten a lot of practice on taller bikes, 900-pound baggers, this bike feels small. When we went on our ladies' trip to the Devil's Triangle, all three of us rotated on this bike, and it became the bike to get a break from the chopper or the bobber that obviously wasn't made for road trips. It's so comfy. I mean, it's like a mini Road King, or kind of like a Heritage. The bags are a little bit small for a long road trip if I'm comparing them to a 900-pound Harley bagger, but I can't complain because it's a lot lighter than a 900-pound bagger. But it's great for road trips, and me, I'm a petite woman. I'm 3.75 inches tall, and I'm not that strong, not that swole. And this bike didn't feel like something I really had to manhandle. Something much taller or much bigger like the 900-pound Harley baggers, you're definitely gonna need a steeper learning curve. But this one you might be able to get away with as a brand new or newer rider. Shout out to RidersShare for giving me $200 credit towards this reservation. RidersShare is like the Airbnb for motorcycles. With my link below, you can sign up and get $25 off your first rental trip. Now, let's get into the details. The Suzuki Boulevard C50, or the C50T with the accessories, it's been in production since 2001. When it first launched at Daytona Bike Week, it was named the Volusia. And since 2005, it's been rebranded as the Suzuki Boulevard C50. It follows a formula of a smaller yet capable engine fitted into a frame size for a slightly larger engine. Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha have also done this in their cruiser lines. In 2005, when the Volusia became the Boulevard C50, that's when the Boulevard series began using fuel injection instead of a carburetor. The engine is a liquid-cooled 805cc in a 45V twin. It has 5-speed manual gearbox and a shaft drive. There are 4 sub-models of the C50, starting with the base model, the C50. It's just under $10K at base MSRP. The C50T comes with some accessories, like the studs on the leather and a windshield. And you can also get it with studded saddlebags, like the one that I rode. The C50 SE Special Edition has cast wheels and studded seats and a tribal flame paint job, depending on the model year. For 2014, Suzuki added the C50 Boss, which stands for Blacked Out Suzuki Special. And there they substituted black for nearly all of the standard chrome parts and did black cast wheels. If you're not in the USA, I'm sure you're already letting me know I'm an idiot in the comments for calling it small. And technically, you're right. It's classified as a middleweight touring motorcycle. And before we show its spec comparison to other similar bikes, I'll show you the first impressions that Maria and Whitney had, as we all traded bikes throughout our trip, so each one of us got a chance to try it out. Maria's the newer rider at a couple of years riding, and Whitney has probably been riding the longest and is the one who picked the chopper for a long distance trip ending in twisties, if that'll give you an idea of where all our opinions are coming from. What do you all think of this one?
This was my salve to my soul. Doodle was so gracious to be like, do you need a break? Do you want to ride my bike? And I was like, for real? And then I sobbed, and then she had to get me to stop sobbing.
True story.
I got on the bike. I was like, a backrest? I don't think I've ridden a lot of motorcycles, and I've never ridden one with a backrest.
Makes sense.
And then it's got this, not a bagger person, so of course they've got, they all have that or whatever. This, like, the heel shifter,
They don't all have that.
They don't all have that. It's got like a 2010 vibe,
Yeah,
a little
it
bit
does,
like
that's
the
true.
design. This reminds me of like somebody in high school's mom's house or something. I loved it a lot more than I thought I would.
I know, that's what happens with these baggers.
I thought
Yeah.
it was like a
what happens.
dorky option, but it's like, it's No, it's the high IQ option.
Yeah, because everyone kind of talks crap on metric cruisers, but I've never ridden a bagger ever before. So when y'all were like, get on it, I was like, okay, here we go. As soon as you stand it up, surprisingly a lot lighter than I thought. Surprisingly
Nimble.
maneuverable.
Yeah.
And literally I was on it for like 2 minutes and you're like, oh yeah, this is the best experience ever. And it truly does, like it sits you back and it just lets you enjoy the nature and everything around you. They made for a really lovely ride. I kind of love it.
I know.
Like I really am kind of in love with it. It's like slippers, like, or like Ugg boots. Like you don't get them because they're beautiful or pretty. You get it because it's just feels so good. It feels like home. It does. And it just makes the experience so much better. You heard it here first. Suzuki Boulevard, the
Metric
slipper
cruisers, yeah. The
of the
Ugg
motorcycle
boots.
world.
Shout out Ugg. Get Doodle on the Doodle a sponsorship.
I rode 100 miles in Ugg boots.
So the C50T may look more like a Harley Road King with its windshields and saddlebags. But in person, I actually thought it was more like the Harley Heritage in terms of size. It wasn't until I looked at the specs that I saw that the Heritage has a wet weight of 728 pounds, more than double the engine size of the C50 at 1868cc, where the C50 is at 805cc and 611 pounds. So on paper, it's really more comparable in size to a Sportster 883. RIP 883 discontinued in 2022, with the 883's wet weight at just under 600 pounds. So how did this do for commuting or long distance trip or in the twisties? Because it's so much lighter than, say, the 900-pound baggers, and for me at 5'3.75" inches tall, my feet being totally flat, it makes it a pretty easy bike to maneuver around town if you're stuck in traffic or you need to be at slow speeds or you just have to put your feet down a lot because there are a lot of stop signs. So I'd say it would definitely pass the commuting test, particularly in the US where you still have a lot of room to maneuver on the roads. As far as a long distance bike, the three of us thought it was incredibly comfortable. It's got your upright seating position, place for a backrest for you and a passenger. The stock seat alone is so comfortable. The windshield is great at keeping the wind off of you so you don't get neck and headache fatigue. My only qualm I'd say is that the bags are on the smaller side. If you're doing something much longer than a weekend trip, you'd probably want to mount another bag, say where a passenger might be sitting. And how it did in the twisties. It looks and feels like a bagger, but it rides in the twisties almost like a naked bike. Granted, there are some floorboards, so if you're the kind of rider that likes to go knee down or just lean really far on the street, which I really don't recommend, and like say that for the track, you're probably not gonna love it for the twisties. But as someone who's just novice on the track and doesn't lean too hard in the twisties but really enjoys them, I thought it was great. So this bike is very much an all-around bike. Maybe you think it looks too old school or dorky, doesn't have the cool modern look of the Indian Scout Bobber that Maria was riding on the trip, or the Harley Low Rider ST. I mean, are you getting this bike to look at it or are you getting it to ride it? This is kind of bike you get because you want to put a lot of miles in your seat, so the looks may not be as important. Or maybe you like this traditional look. And whatever the specs say, I still think that it's most comparable in terms of feel and even the way it feels when you ride it to the Heritage. So if you want to see that review, you can click on this video right over here.